This is the Moto RAZR 2024, the least expensive version of Motorola's latest foldable, and what I'm going to call maybe one of the best phones you should consider right now. I know, this is not the RAZR Plus review, more on that later. I'm talking about the one that's priced like a mid-ranger, but then looks and behaves like a flagship in almost every way, and yeah, let's make a lot of emphasis on that almost. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and let's dive into our full review. The usual flagship killer formula is of this borderline mid-ranger phone, which most companies call premium, a segment set for devices that share some flagship specifications on lesser hardware, all built with this idea that more tech-savvy users would love to save some money on a more powerful product. This Moto RAZR is actually a blend of this, but approached in a different way, almost making me wonder if it's trying to create a new breed. See, at $699, it competes with the likes of the Pixel 8 or Galaxy S24, but then does things those phones simply can't do. Physically, this phone does not look nor feel like an afterthought. As a matter of fact, it shares so much of the body and design of last year's RAZR Plus that you could call it one. But then that would be a way to undermine the fact that this phone is actually better in a couple of ways. For example, the hinge is now 30% smaller, allowing for a far better motion than last year, which, yeah, makes this phone easier to flip open and close when you need to. It's also somehow sturdier, letting you keep the phone open in any position better than before. The company's choice for vegan leather then augments the feel in a hand, along with making it one less thing you have to worry about if you drop the phone. Overall, it's hard to deny just how good this phone feels, as the fact that it bends by design enables a slimmer body overall. Now, flipping it over either of these displays is yet another example of why there is no skimping out here. This 3.6-inch POLED cover screen alone was exclusive to the more expensive flagship last year. It brings 413 pixels per inch, provides 10-bit color, 90Hz refresh rate, 120Hz touch sampling, and a crazy 1700 nits. Motorola then upped the ante by enhancing the user interface in such a way that I found myself using and trusting it just as much as I would use the primary screen. From newer widgets to a more dense grid of icons, to the fact that you can run any application you want out here without going through any hoops, and even a landscape mode for the applications that don't necessarily conform best. All this, plus a very pronounced always-on mode we missed before, and yeah, consider that you can fully use this phone without needing to flip it open. Thing is, once you do, you're then in for another treat. At 6.9 inches diagonal and the exact same PPI as the cover screen, Motorola's POLED is probably the best foldable screen I've used by far, and it has a lot to do with the company's implementation. See, even the latest Z Flip 6 still struggles with your use of polarized sunglasses, while Motorola's screen doesn't have that problem. Heck, even the screen protector is now redone to not need that ugly camera cutout. Colors are then so vibrant that I had to switch the default mode to natural. The company's hinge then does a good job at keeping the crease under control. We have 120Hz refresh rate, from 220 to 300Hz touch rate in gaming mode, and an insane 3000 nits of brightness at peak. Match this with some pretty good dual firing speakers, and yeah, this is pretty flagship great.
You just need to live with that. So open it up and you're greeted by an extra tall 6.9-inch Full HD Plus OLED.
Even if you were to consider what you get from the internals, this phone packs more than enough of a punch. This device is powered by the MediaTek Dimensity 7300X, 8 gigs of LPDDR4X RAM, 256 gigs of UFS 3.2 storage, a pretty large 4200 mAh battery that can charge at 30 watts or 15 watts wireless, all the latest forms of connectivity, IPX8 water resistance. Like seriously, you asked for it, you get it. Now, things do start getting mixed once we look into the software experience. Motorola's approach to Android 14 is pretty bare bones, which we appreciate, all matched with some of the sprinkles of common sense uniqueness that I've come to love from this company. Little things like the wrist gesture to call on the camera or the chop for the flashlight should be industry standards, like seriously. I'd even say Motorola provides some of the best and most useful widgets, along with some of the Moto extras I seriously wish Android phones had by default. My problem is really two things. One being that last year's Motorola phones are still stuck on Android 13, which, yeah, doesn't paint a pretty picture for this nearly stock Android phone to treat you well over time. Heck, we even did get a promise for some Moto AI features to consider, but right now, it's mostly about Gemini, which runs on other phones as well, so yeah, don't bank on potential. Second is that I do think this phone needs some sort of added tuning to the software, because it can get a bit sluggish every now and then, particularly when operating the camera. I seriously can't remember the last time that I used an Android phone, even at the cheaper levels, with these inconsistencies, so yeah, keep an eye on that before you decide to try this phone. Now, over the last couple of weeks, it's hard to deny that the other 95% of the experience of using it has been pretty great. Motorola phones are the kings of phone calls, with the best sound you'll hear anywhere, period, and with callers praising just how much this feels like a classic landline, if you're old enough to remember what that sounds like. Also, I find it insane just how efficient this Dimensity chip is at sipping on power, because I've been able to survive for more than a day on a single charge without a problem. But then once you switch into the cameras, can I just say that things get kind of weird, but in a sort of good way. See, when you look at the camera specs, there's not much to celebrate. Foldables have never been known as photography kings, and at this price point, I'll admit that I didn't walk into this review with high expectations. But then, what if I told you that I prefer what I can do with this phone, even over the more expensive RAZR Plus? This phone takes me back to the old Nexus 6P days, where the viewfinder was giving you this okay depiction of the scene, but then you take the shot and the processing kicks in, and then wow. Motorola has decided to solve all of our photography complaints with post-processing, and boy is it good. You'll notice it handles colors, highlights, and shadows pretty well during the day, and the reason I like this base model over the RAZR Plus is because this one does have the trifecta of ultra-wide primary and 2x telephoto through a digital crop, in addition to macro capabilities, while the Plus ditches the ultra-wide for whatever reason. I can't stress enough how much I prefer to have more focal lengths over features, and you get those on this less expensive phone. I'll admit I even like this shift to grain when light is not necessarily in the phone's favor. It looks pretty artistic. At night, though, things do get pretty inconsistent. Sometimes the phone will do a great job, sometimes it all falls apart. It's as if it doesn't always judge the scene correctly to give you the right mode for the moment. Now, whenever it does, well, I do love the results, but then again, it can be hit or miss, and yeah, I will admit, this use of grain does play well in its favor in these situations too. Now, portraits and selfies are then an interesting blend of, wow, this is great, to that could have been better, but I'd say most of the time I'm pretty pleased with the results. It does help that you can use the cover screen to use the primary cameras, and that when you're taking a photo of someone else, they do get a preview, and it's funny how people react to seeing this and then compose themselves. Now, once you switch to video, well, things are not great, as is to be expected with most Android phones. Call the camcorder feature cool all you want, but I'd rather get better results than just these okay ones. The capabilities are all here, but clearly the codec needs a higher bitrate. They'll get you through the moment so long as you have enough light. And even selfie video is, again, just passable, but not something I'd replace any flagship for. Just keep that in mind. To conclude, can I just say that I was expecting this to be your typical mid-ranger review where you end up saying it's okay for the money kind of arguments, and then here are so many other alternatives at the same price that give you similar capabilities or more. But then the thing is, that's not this phone. The last thing I would have ever thought is that I'd finally have a flip phone that's so well priced and then so adequately executed that I'd have no problem in recommending it, period. I've even lost count at how many generations of foldable RAZR we've gotten, but can I just say that this is like the company's magnum opus. We've seen this interesting progression of Motorola banking hard on affordable devices and a batch of mediocre foldables, so it's hard not to assume that would be the case here, but I think years of experience and feedback have led to this moment. A foldable that's priced like a flagship killer, but then with all the chops needed to actually live up to that title. Any of you in the market for an affordable flagship, like seriously, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I'm glad I am. Just give this Moto RAZR a try. I can't remember the last time that I loved the Motorola phone so much, and after using them for most of my 2000s, I can't tell you enough how happy I am that this phone is finally here. Let me know if you agree with our assessment in the comments down below, and while you're at it, follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. You can also follow me on my personal handles to see me love this RAZR. Yes, the less expensive one more than ever. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.